Oh shit. We're back.
Boom.
Boom. We're back, man.
That's what I hear people used to say back in the day. When they start a podcast, they'd go boom.
I've been told that's how the pros do it.
Not sure if that's anything like us.
Yeah. Um no, I mean we've had a bit of a hiatus, I guess you could call it.
Spring
Um
break. We've been on spring break.
yeah, why not? Why not?
You had a
Um
tour. You had a tour, and I did an episode with John, which was great. It was good that he could fill in. And then,
we did an episode with you and me and John.
yeah, we did that because he just showed up. He was like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" And,
Yeah.
and we didn't do books the next week because you were on tour. No, no.
I had to go see John Wick. I couldn't
Oh, that's
not
right.
go see
You went and
John
saw
Wick.
John Wick. Then last week I was at Legoland with my family.
Yeah.
They had fun. And now we're here. Back, reunited.
So
One night old. No, I don't know. But
in the interim, I actually did go to there's a con here in Minnesota called Spring Con. Well, it used to be called Spring Con. Now I think it's just MCBA Comic Con.
what was that?
Here in Minnesota in St. Paul.
But when? I mean,
Oh, when? It was within the last couple of weeks.
oh, okay.
I should have posted about it. I didn't, but I did get to do some cool stuff, and I want to kind of show what I got. Not a ton of stuff, so it won't take forever. Um, I'm a gigantic fan of Irredeemable. I don't know if we've ever talked about Irredeemable, probably a while ago.
I've read, I think, half of it.
You should finish it. It's super, super good. And
I've
anybody
heard.
out there who has never read Irredeemable, get on it. It's Mark Waid, who's an amazing writer, and then Peter Krause is the artist, and he's actually a really good artist. But I met him at a previous con here in Minnesota. Um, and I talked to him a whole bunch about Irredeemable and had him do a sketch cover for me of one of my original characters. And when I saw him at SpringCon this last couple of weeks, as I walked up to the table, he was like, "Hey, you're the Irredeemable fan." And I thought that was really cool. So he remembered me about that. And then we got to talking. And he said that he and Mark Waid actually did another book. Irredeemable is essentially their take on Superman and a kind of a perversion of the Superman mythos, a better one than Brightburn. And so Peter was telling me that they also did a perversion of the Batman and Robin mythos, and that is their book Insufferable.
Mhm.
And I wasn't able, I had already, like, that was the end of the day for me, and I had already basically spent the money that I could. He had all the trades, but I wasn't able to get them. And he was like, "Okay, look, just read the first issue and let me know if you like it, and read the rest of it if you like it." And so he gave me the first issue. I thought that was really cool. He's obviously signed it for me as well. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. He was super awesome about it, and I actually did read it, and it's really good. So I'm gonna have to check this out.
Did
Uh,
you also read? Is it called Incorruptible?
I did not read Incorruptible.
Okay, I know it gets kind of confusing when you start adding in all the in words.
Right.
Incorruptible too, because it's like I don't know. I'm not gonna think of a good villain to think of it as, but like basically it's like the villain switches and becomes good. So
Yeah, because the
it,
whole point of Irredeemable is basically like, what if a Superman-like character just had enough of people being ungrateful and telling him he wasn't doing enough, and he decided to snap and become the bad guy everybody was saying he was, and so he just goes nuts and destroys everything.
yeah, and
Um,
I would agree with what Eric said. If you haven't read it, you should read it. I mean, it's not a Valiant book, but it's really well done. Um, it's a pretty bloodthirsty book. I remember like that first trade. It just is like anybody that even came near him, he just like destroyed pretty much. But there's a
yeah,
lot to the story. And obviously like Incorruptible is like a sister book to it where there's a villain who decides that he has to be good at that point, and then Incorrigible or whatever that other book was.
Insufferable.
I haven't read Insufferable. I haven't read that yet. There should be an Incorrigible. That
Yeah.
should be book 4.
Um, so that was really cool, and it was awesome that Peter recognized me. I was pretty stoked about that. Um,
Hey, I got
there,
a question real quick. How many
yeah,
sketch covers have you gotten done of your character?
ooh, four or five maybe.
Ah, that's rad.
Yeah, I got one that I want to talk about in a little bit. There was a local guy there selling his fantasy comic, and I wanted to support. I'm not huge into fantasy, but I thought it would be cool. So I grabbed this comic. I thought the art looked really solid. So yeah, I picked that up. That was cool. Again, I mean, it's not super my style, but it was affordable. The guy was really engaging and cool, and I wanted to support. Also, toward the end of the day, I was just walking around looking. There was an artist that was local that I had never heard of before, but he had some sketch covers out that he had already done prior to the show, and he had them for sale. And this was one of them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty awesome that he had already done a Bloodshot Salvation sketch cover. Um, and he did like
That
this
feels
whole
just
theme.
like my last week, man.
um, but yeah, I thought that was really cool. And I couldn't turn it down. And he actually sold it to me for less than sticker price because I was wearing a Bloodshot shirt. Um, so that was really cool. Elliot was there.
Oh, good.
Valiant fans remember Elliot. He has written Bloodshot's Day Off, that Divinity 3 Archer and Armstrong tie-in. He wrote Quantum and Woody, wrote Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe, and he's currently writing Bloodshot. We also had talked a little bit about a book that he did for Aftershock called Hot Lunch Special. I had only ever read the first issue, and he had those trades, so I grabbed a copy of the trade, and I told him to scribble on it. So I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this. It's a stinky piece of poop skateboarding, flipping the bird, saying "fuck you." So I thought that was pretty hilarious. um,
That seems very Elliot.
I talked to Elliot, and we discussed the fact that he's on the Bloodshot book right now, and I think that he knows as well as anybody that the reception to that title has not been great. And so he came onto the book aware of that. And one thing I was saying to him was that it has felt so far like the book has just kind of, every issue has just rehashed the same thing over and over and over again, just from a slightly different perspective. It's all just been, a different personality and a different little mind game being played in each issue. And through our conversation, the way that it kind of ended up was the analogy is like essentially Elliot's job is to land the somersault at this point. Like the somersault has already started. His job is just to land it. And he's got 3 issues to do it. Um, and we'll get to talk about issue 7, the second of his 3-issue run on it. The other thing that I was asking him is whether or not we'll get to see more of him in the Valiant universe. I also let him know that there are fans such as myself who have enjoyed him coming on to books and taking them over and want to see him do his own book. And he was unable to rule that out as a possibility.
Hmm.
So obviously I don't know. I think that would be really cool. And hopefully that we will actually get that. I don't know.
I do too, because I mean, the thing I always think about Elliot is like he's been a really like dependable writer for the company, and it'd be nice to see him just get a chance to launch an ongoing, just his own
Right.
little thing, like give him a pitch him a character, and just see what he could do, because I feel like he hopped on when Quantum and Woody needed a writer. I think he did really well with those
Yeah.
characters.
He
In
took a
fact, I
decent run
think
and made
really
it
high
good.
on that arc. that whole, from 6 to 12, I think are really well done. And then we'll discuss Rising Spirit 7 later, but like I think coming in on that, which can't be a real like great situation for anyone when you know that like a book is not favored, is not liked very much, and you're just basically there, like you said, to finish it out. So I feel like cut the guy a little bit of like slack here. Give him a book, give him his own thing, be like, hey, pitch us something and we'll see what we can do. There's a lot of characters not being used.
Well, not only are there not a lot of characters not being used, but look at other stuff that we've gotten. We got, Matt Kent came up with Divinity, and I guess, Divinity is kind of a analog for Solar. But I mean, we've had people bring new characters to the table as well, whether that's Savage or Divinity or Britannia or Forgotten Queen. So I mean, we've gotten a lot of other things. So not only is there a wide array of possibilities with existing known characters, there's also the possibility to do something that isn't known. There's a lot of the Valiant universe that has not been explored. Even with, in 7 years that the company's been publishing books with only a few titles every month, there's no way to, flesh out the entire universe. So yeah, there's a lot of room to play. Elliot's obviously a good writer. I think he should get to do some more stuff.
Yeah, and I want to say real quick, his other book that he was doing I think for Vault, Return to Whisper, I think that's coming back also. So I mean, like, I always think he's a good dude. If you can support his books, do so. Obviously, we like supporting Valiant books, but like Elliot's a great guy. He is one of the funniest like Valiant creators in person. He's such a like dude.
Yeah. He's just a really nice, genuine guy.
Yeah, inside the convention and outside. Like we ran into him on the street leaving one night, and he was hilarious. He's a really good guy. So, I'm always gonna root for him. I really am.
Absolutely.
Keep going.
100%. So then that was the stuff that I got at the con, and then there are a couple other things. You had mentioned that or asked about how many different sketch covers I have of my book that I wrote, and I actually just got one in recently from Mr. Brent Peoples.
That thing looks so awesome. I had seen the pictures online of it.
Yeah.
And man, that's just such great work.
Yeah, I really, really love that one. The other one, that I also posted that he did was this another Bloodshot Salvation cover. I wasn't sure, like neither here nor I remembered when I gave him this cover what I asked him to do. And at the same time, we both said Rampage. So he did Rampage, and he did it really awesome. And then the other thing that I also posted that I want to mention, and it's much bigger, is the commission that my wife got me.
Oh, see, so I've been waiting for that thing to show up because that thing looks amazing. And you didn't even know about that. That's so cool, man. That's such a cool surprise to get.
Yeah, she just it showed up in the mail, and so she gave it to me.
So is that 11 by 17?
It is, yeah.
Oh, that's so rad.
It's a massive 11 by 17 done by Brent Peoples, and yeah, not a print. It's the art, which is super, super cool. I don't have. That's the only piece that I have that's that big by like a known published artist. I've got a bunch of really cool stuff from Fred Dunn that my wife has commissioned for me, which is also amazing. No, those I think are also 11 by 17.
Oh, okay. And those ones, for anyone who doesn't know, those are Bloodshot fighting Batman.
Yeah, it's a Bloodshot versus Batman fight. That's pretty awesome. But yeah, so that's all the cool stuff that I've gotten that I am super proud to have as part of my collection. Obviously, the original art with the sketch covers and stuff like that, and especially the commission my wife got me. That's original stuff that, is priceless, invaluable. Oh. And, this stuff that I always like getting stuff at cons because there's always that experience with those too. The sketch cover that I found that was already done for Bloodshot Salvation, getting Elliot to draw a poop flipping me off. That's the cool thing about cons. That's why I think that they're a lot of fun.
When I went to Wasatch Comic Con, like I guess like in April, Sal Valuta, who did Volume Two Bloodshot, was there, and he had a sketch cover already done of Bloodshot, where it was the old Bloodshot that, or I guess like the Bloodshot that we know, like Ray Garrison style Bloodshot, and then it was like his version of Bloodshot on the cover too. And I was like, oh, I'd love to get that, just because like Sal, it's always kind of neat to get a sketch cover by an artist who actually worked on the character.
Yeah.
And I don't, that's not something I can really lay claim to with a whole lot of my stuff. Like I just don't get that kind of opportunity too often, but I just didn't have the money for it at the time. So I was kind of bummed that I missed out on that.
Yeah, I saw Patrick Gleason and he was selling sketch covers and stuff. But yeah, there was definitely no way that I could afford him. Um, he's a very
He's out there, isn't he?
yeah, he's from here in Minnesota, so he's at the shows a lot. I have the how do I don't know how to turn my arm in a way that works, but I've got the Patrick Gleason Joker from Death of the Family on my arm. Um, and I would love to have, some original art from him, but yeah, I mean like the pages that he was selling and the sketch covers that he was selling were unfortunately out of my price range. And
Yeah.
if I had gotten anything from him, that would have been the only thing that I could have gotten the whole time, as opposed to being able to at least get a few different things. So
Yeah. I hear that. It's always kind of nice when you can spread your money around a little bit more versus getting like that one thing that's really cool. You sometimes just get a lot of like pretty cool things, Sometimes it just makes it a little bit more fulfilling, I guess.
yeah, I mean each item that you come away with, it kind of is its own story, and I got to come away with a few different stories instead of just the one. So
Yeah.
um yeah, but we do have a whole bunch of books that we can talk about, so we can kind of plow through them. We will be getting into spoilers for anybody watching or listening, just so you are aware. Um, but I think we're going to be talking about Livewire number 6. Oh, I had this up here, and now I completely lost it. Livewire number 6, Toyo number 3, Incursion number 4, Bloodshot Rising Spear number 7, Punk Mama number 2, and Forgotten Queen number 4, because we've been out of commission for a little bit. So Livewire number 6. I mean, honestly, I don't think that there's a whole lot to say about this book. This book is really awesome. And I mean, we could dive really deep into a whole bunch of stuff about it, but I think that really sums it up. This has been a really great book.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes off a topic a little bit, but I was sad to see that Kano, he's not going to continue with art after this arc. John Hoosier brought that up to me when I posted the solicitations on the Get Valiant page. He was like, "Oh, it's going to be someone else." And while they're an all right artist, it just wasn't my thing. I can't remember who the artist was right now. Now that we're talking about it, but you know, I like this issue, and I think that like the cast is getting added to the book around her is kind of interesting. That this whole little whatever it is that PRS is doing, like this little school of sorts, like it's cool stuff, And this book is starting to kind of give me a little bit of like the I've brought this up before, like it's starting to make me feel like in a way it's kind of like the X-Men a little bit, like it's got like a little bit of that kind of thing that reminds me of that. And I say that in a good way, because I have fond memories of those books. I don't have fond memories of the newer books because I think they're not very good. That's just my opinion. But if you can give me a book that kind of reignites that kind of feeling I had in those old stories, I think that's a good thing. And so like I think this book has been doing great. I really like it still. It seems like people have kind of fallen off a little bit on it, but I think Vita's doing great work here, and the art's awesome. Let me see if I can pull it up for a moment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Connell.
like, the art just looks great. Throughout the issue, the colors look great with it.
It's a
Um,
super solid, consistent looking issue. I mean, it looks really, really good page to page. I think that as far as the writing goes, Vita gets the character. We saw Secret Weapons be one of the best things Valiant has published, and that showed how great Livewire can be when she's fighting for something that she believes in when she's fighting for people that she wants to protect. And so that's what kind of Vita has kind of run with, and I think it works really well. And yeah, we're getting new characters, we're getting fun action scenes, we're getting deep emotions. For me, this is a great all-around book. Like I said, wonderful writing, beautiful art. This for me is still a 4.5. I think it's a really strong book. I'm very, very glad that we didn't just get a four-issue mini out of this.
Yeah, and I remember like even at Emerald City, there was still talk of like whether or not there was going to be a third arc. So I'm glad there is going to be a third arc in this book. I did think like one thing I had that was a little bit negative to me on this issue was I just remember like it's been a couple weeks since I read it, and there's the fight in the middle of this book, and I was like, you know what, we just had like two issues of like a fight, like I was almost like I could do without so many pages dedicated to another fight. I know that sounds kind of weird, but that was like my only real negative thing about this one. I like the fact that, and this spoils it a little bit, Livewire doesn't just win every fight. Like she's not like, even though she's been trained by like some of the most deadly people on earth, she's not a person who just can walk into like any situation and just win it without her powers. I do think at some point I want to see a little more of the abilities pop up in the book, but I do agree with you on the 4.25 thing. I almost want to go a little higher just because of how much I like Kano's art on the issue.
No, I said 4.5.
You said 4.5. Oh, I'm a 4.25 on this one. But it's a great issue. I think the first trade just came out too. So if you haven't got the trade, go get the trade, man. Like the first it's story arc. First story arc is awesome. Um, yeah, I haven't read the issue for like 3 weeks, so I'm just trying to remember like anything about it.
No, that's cool. It was a good issue. Yeah, we're a little late on it, and we could have been more in depth earlier,
we
but whatever.
we get busy
Um,
around these parts.
so, Life and Death of Toyo Harada #3. Um, Big time spoiler. Toyo is apparently dead.
We don't know that for sure.
Yeah, I don't think he is. While he died, the book was talking about how matter becomes energy, energy becomes matter, and all this stuff. I think that with the knowledge Toyo gained from having already interfaced with the brain in that jar or whatever, I think that he knows a way to keep himself alive.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to think. Like even in like old Valiant, like in Rise Zero, I want to say they kind of hint at like Toyo knowing a little bit more about like how like the body works after death and stuff like that. So I like, and the reason I even mention this because I always love it when you get little like callbacks to things like that. Um, even like, even like on like the whole like thing, between him and the Angela vessel, which is very interesting that it comes to such a head halfway through this series. The thing that was maybe the most impressive to me about this book was like, in a weird way, like all the interactions with Albert Einstein and young Toyo Harada. Like I just thought like the way that it kind of weaves throughout the story was really well done. I mean, Josh Dysart knocked this one out of the park, and that's not really like probably that big of a compliment because we compliment his work every time he writes anything. But
Yeah.
I really thought that this was a really, really strong issue. I've thought the last two issues were great too. And it's almost unfair to be like, well, I thought the last issue was like probably like a 4.5 or 4.5. I would already say I think this issue's a 5. It's just really well done. I also like that it's even with like as much stuff going on with that little bit of the backstory, all the tension between Toyo and the Emperor vessel, we still saw little bits and pieces of the cast of the other people behind the scenes. Like Sunlight Snow and Grave Dog and all this. And I like it. I kind of like where they're all headed because in a way it does seem like maybe Toyo does see the end. He's making it so that they're all not to be so dependent upon him in case he does go. Like they can go their way if they need to. So again, it's just a really strong issue. Great issue.
Yeah, I think like Toyo is finally giving up some control. And
Yeah.
I know that there are practical reasons he's doing that, but I hope that assuming that he's not dead, which I'm gonna make that assumption, um, I think that it makes sense for him to start giving up control, and hopefully he can learn from, being willing to give up control and let people make choices. Because he wants to create this utopia, but there is no utopia without freedom, and he's got to allow for that.
You
So,
know, one thing, the whole death of like Toyo Harada, I think is an interesting concept, and I think I brought this up before, but like in a sense, no, there's not too many like current Valiant stories that are not written by Josh Dysart that feature Harada. Like there's like I think that first arc of Unity, and then like there's Harbinger Wars, like the stuff that like with that included Bloodshot. But like there's not a lot of stuff that Josh has not written that has Toyo in it. And in a sense, like he's been kept off the board for so long that if hypothetically speaking, I think like if they did kill him, which I don't think they will, but if they did kill him, I don't think it would be like that big of an issue because no one else has really written the character. It's basically been Josh's the whole time. But I also think like it's such a powerful character, and I know that it gets hinted at, and people even brought this up to me at like other fans like talking like in City. They're like, "Do you think they'll really kill him?" And I just can't see that being the case because he is such a huge part of that corner of characters, you know. And I also said that like I don't think that death necessarily needs to be his life. It can just be like maybe like the mission itself can be like a death of sorts, where he knows he can't accomplish this. The sides are all closing in, and it's maybe time to like kill that dream of sorts. But
even the world thinking he's dead and reacting to that and seeing that fallout could very well be what the story, what the title is referring to.
yeah, so I
Because
think there's a
the
lot of
Angela's telling
interesting play.
everybody he's dead. Yeah.
So
So, I mean, we'll see what happens. For me, I would put it on par with that Livewire issue. It's 4.5 for me.
oh,
Um,
I'm a 5 on it. I think I said that already, but
yeah,
we're all
it's a
good.
great book. It's a great
Yeah,
book. Not trying to take anything away from it. It's a great book. I love the backups. I love the first one had uh the wartime stuff, and the second one had the like pirate stuff when he learned to fly, and now this third one has him in Albert Einstein's dying mind. Um, yeah, it's been really interesting, and I'm really curious to see how the rest of the series is going to go.
the extra page count goes so far with this book.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, Joshua Dysart's writing is already really dense. So, like you said, I mean, we get to see all the characters in these. I mean, all the main important characters from Incursion, um, or Incursion. I'm thinking about Incursion from oh my God, Imperium. We're getting to see all those characters, and yeah, I think it's been really cool. And like you said, the expanded page count has really helped to expand the story so that it can still be the dense story that and the dense style that Josh Dysart writes in, but it doesn't feel overly condensed, with so much that's going on. But anyway, we can move on to incursion number 4. One thing I want to give a huge shout out to, Alex Packnale has joined the Valiant Comic Fans group, and he hasn't said anything about whether he's going to stick around in the Valiant universe beyond incursion, and I haven't heard anything about, one way or the other on that. But he's a super cool creator to interact with, and he's super responsive and respectful, and I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think when he popped up, I didn't have the time to even like get involved in any of that stuff. But he does seem like a really nice guy from his Twitter interactions.
Yeah. So incursion number 4, honestly, I've had so much fun with this whole book, and issue 4 is no different. I think that it's just a really, really fun book. Um, the villain Imperatrix Virago was really cool the whole time. Bringing Dr. Mirage in, um, Galad going off on his own little journey. I thought that all the stuff with Tama in this 4th issue, because Galad uses necromancy to cure her, which is crazy, and who knows what that's going to lead to in the future. But then, she comes back and she's all like pissed off and ready to kill, and Galad has to stop her. And I just thought that I really want to see Alex Packnell write a Galad and Tama book after this. I think it would be really interesting to see how that kind of stuff plays out. And the other thing that I'm super happy with on this book is that it wasn't just an excuse to put Galad on the shelf. This story was a true story. It had emotion and it had legitimate impact on the universe because Tama is an important character in the Valiant universe. If you think about it, if you lived in that world and were active in world level shit, Tama is a very important character, and I really like that this actually did something with her, and like I said, wasn't just putting the characters on the shelf.
Yeah. So I mean, like my thought on this too is like, so like I agree with all that stuff. I like the fact that like it kind of had to take a little bit of a dark turn with like Galad using necromancy to save Tama. So there's going to be some consequences that we're not going to see just yet, but they're going to happen at some point down the road. We're going to see something happen. Secondly, I like the fact that this is going to, this entire event, I think, is going to be one that is going to, things can springboard off of. I'm hoping they do. Don't know for sure if they will, but I hope they do because I just feel like it wasn't just like oh, here's 4 issues where like Galad showed up and beat some faceless villains to death, and that's it, cool. Wait for us to do something else in here with him. I really hope that like the preview art that they had been teasing with Juan Jose Reed's art, I really hope that's Galad and Tama. Like I
Yeah,
hope that because I think the momentum is here with the character, and I think don't don't do this event and then don't do anything else with it. That's not great, man. Like this, they got to follow it up. Like hopefully this year, hopefully we at least hear something. So I thought this was great. Downside of it, I bitch about this all the time, and even like when I read it, I thought maybe I shouldn't be so pissed off about it this time. But Imperatrix Raja seemed cool, probably dead, but Scintilla or whatever her name is, her little like prodigy, she's still out there. So who knows what we'll see with her? It could there could be some cool things in brewing. So overall, I thought this was a great series, though. I've been loving it since issue 1. Bummed it's over, but mostly I'm bummed just because if we don't get more, it's gonna stink.
yeah. No, I was bummed that they killed Imperatrix Virago, but the fact that, yes, Scintilla seems to still be around and active, I thought was really cool. So at least we're still getting that. And there's still a possibility for her to come back and to wreak some havoc. And then, yeah, having some actual impact, having a story that has some impact on Tama and Galad and, what their relationship is going to be like moving forward and really having a big question mark about what changes could be coming for Tama because of the lengths Galad had to go to. So, yeah, I really hope, like you said, that art that we saw that they didn't reveal who it was. Hopefully that's Galad and Tama. We'll see. Hopefully Alex Packnell is involved. For me,
Yeah.
I think that this is. I gave both of the last two books a 4.5. They're both amazing books. I'll have to give this one a 4. I think that this is a really, really solid book. I don't think it's quite on the level of those other two, but it is really, really good and definitely something that I think that, I would think that even a new reader could pick this up and get what's going on and enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a 4 on this. Also, I also think that too. Like I mean, to me, I think like this is the kind of thing that like maybe it's not as good as the Valiant, but like it's still a really fun Galad story. I feel like everything you need to know about Imperatrix Virago is introduced within these pages. So that's it. It's a nice done in 4 issue story. Um, and again, I think it sets up. It might set up a lot of cool stuff. So definitely good stuff. I mean, like honestly, I'd have to probably read all of it together to see like what I really think the whole story overall is, but it'd be 4+ easily.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. Um, so we can two that I'd like to go through fairly quickly. I think are Bloodshot Rising Spirit 7 and Forgotten Queen number 4.
Okay.
Um, as far as Forgotten Queen #4 goes, I was really disappointed. I thought the art was inconsistent. I thought that there was some issues that way. Um, and the art's been really good on this book. So that was a little bit disappointing to see that in this final issue. And then I don't even know how to feel about Vexana being an Anipada. Um, I think that there's nothing like there's no like egregious liberties taken in order to make her an Anipada. There's not like any like massive retcon needed, but it just seems like the kind of thing that we would have heard about before. And I mean, I know that's the point is that this is
Yeah.
she's just learning about this, but still like uh,
So here's where we're going to definitely differ because I really enjoyed the last issue quite a bit. I don't have a problem with her being an Annie Petta. Um, I'm curious with the way this issue ended. In fact, like where she just shows up at like Armstrong's doorstep.
yeah.
Like again, I'm like, okay, this is interesting because she can't deal with Galad. Galad is just not level-headed enough. Whereas like Armstrong and her, it could make for a really interesting moment. Um, but like, I guess to me, it's just like how much like road are we going to really get with this character? Because like I'm not like super invested in this. Okay, like I like it's done really well. I'll say that right now. And I think a lot of people would change their opinion if it just wasn't a character from such a crappy story. I think Tini Howard did such a great job on this book, and I like this issue. And when it was done, I was like, man, like it's crazy, like how much I've liked this book because it's not a character I like. But like, it's just one of those things where I'm just like, man, like how much do you can't make her like a regular character? Like she's just not a regular character type character for me in the Valiant universe. Like I don't expect her to see her pop up every year, you know. But I mean, like the whole thing with Dracula was awesome. I love the
Yeah.
whole Dracula stuff. I think I think that week that you were gone, me and John talked about issue 3, so we were like, oh yeah, like all this stuff. But I think like I think a lot of it's interesting. The only thing that's like a little bit weird too is like this is definitely written like, hey, there's gonna be some other stuff down the line where these things are gonna pay off. Because like her like ex-lover's descendant that she murders, like she's got some kind of masters of sorts. At least she mentions them. Who are they? We don't really know. So there's other stuff here, and it's just to me it kind of reminds me of War Mother, where we're probably not ever going to get the fruit of what it's trying to grow because they're just going to be like, well, we don't have time to get back to it. And Tini Howard's exclusive to Marvel now, so whether or not that will even allow her to work with Valiant, who knows? But honestly, like I've said it since issue 1, this book has been surprising to me in how much I've liked it, just because Warmonger stinks, But she stunk a lot less here.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that it's definitely been an enjoyable book. And if more comes back, I'm not going to complain. Like if we get more of this character, I'll definitely. Uh, if there is, if Teeny Howard has another good story to tell, and the book is as good as this book, I'm 100% down for it. Like I'm totally on board. So yeah, I definitely am not coming away from this thinking it sucked or anything like that. I just think that like I said, the art was inconsistent, which kind of bummed me out a bit. And I do think that I don't know, for me, the jury's still out on how I feel about Vixana being an Anipada. And that was kind of the whole point of this story. So that is one of the things that makes the book, it makes it really difficult for me to know exactly how to feel about this and how to rate it because basically the central point and, big reveal of the book is something that I still don't know how to feel about. So for
Fair
me,
enough.
I'm at, I don't even know, man. I'm going to say like a 3.25, a 3.5, somewhere in that range is where I'm at with this book. I think that's I don't know. Yeah, it's not terrible, but it's not like phenomenally good.
I don't know. Maybe it's just that like shocking, like enjoyment of this book. I'm gonna go 4 on this, man. Like I like it.
Like I said, it's not bad. I definitely understand where you're coming from with a 4. I don't think that that's like
Yeah.
crazy. I just can't get there.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, Bloodshot Rising Spirit number 7. Um, I mean, yeah, Elliot came in with a whole lot of groundwork already laid that hasn't been the best. And there are it had to be a difficult task that he was given. But I think that he did a great job in the previous issue, issue 6, laying himself a groundwork to get a good and satisfying ending out of this title. And I think that this issue was a fuck ton of fun.
I agree. I will say that when I give my score, it'll be an enthusiastic score of what it is, because I think I mentioned last time when we talked about issue 6, I've kind of checked out on this title. I just don't normally care. But I don't know. I read it, and there was a lot of positives for me on this one actually, and it kind of makes you wish, like, man, why? If they'd have known that this thing was going to go south, why couldn't they have just gotten Elliot from issue 1 on issue 1?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, like I think like if you would have just told him like, hey, you run with this because we're having so many problems keeping writers or maybe an editor, who knows? So I think that's when like Joe Illich pieced out. So it's like, like why not just go to Elliot, who's been dependable. We talked about this earlier in the episode, like how we feel about the guy. And this issue, like honestly, like I kind of enjoyed it. Like it's been a while since I've enjoyed Bloodshot on a monthly basis. Because of how honestly how bad I think this run is. But this issue had a little bit of that light at the end of the tunnel, and it was also just kind of like straight up action, like Bloodshot
Yeah,
just
dude.
hammering people and shooting people. He blew a dude like in half with like a laser Gatling gun thing, or rail gun or something like
Yeah,
that.
like it like chopped his like half of his chest and his arm off.
Like, and honestly, like when I was done reading it, I was like, this is kind of what I would have expected out of a Bloodshot book where they're trying to make the monster, where they're trying to create Frankenstein and what the effects of it really are. This one didn't sit there and be like, here's 15 different personalities. Like, you know, his personality did seem still a little wonky, so it's not like fine tuned. But
Well, he's if you remember the last issue, they had implanted a whole bunch of different memory engrams, assuming that the best one would stick, and the
yeah.
strongest one did stick, and that was this serial killer personality. So
So
he's like running around as this like down home Southern boy who's also a crazed psychopath.
yeah. So honestly, like I just feel like I don't know like how Elliot would have started this run, but it would have been. I think it would have been really enjoyable, and maybe it wouldn't have been possible because at the time he was probably wrapping up or working on um, the book that you just bought the trade of, Hot Lunch Special, and Quantum and Woody. So maybe like he would have been a little busy, where it's like he can't take on that much work. But like at the same time, I just think Valiant dropped the ball on this book. It's cool that like Elliot's there to pick it up and run with it, But like the overall, this whole entire run is not going to be favored very well. And
No.
I would say for like any deluxe collectors, I wouldn't count on getting a deluxe edition of this book. That's just my opinion. But yeah, that was a good issue. The art was great.
Yeah.
Even the art change, which I love looking at Rags Morales, but when the art changed, as much as I was like at first like I don't like it, I didn't mind it actually. So I don't know. Maybe it's just that I was in a very good mood. I'm not sure. But my score on this book would be a very enthusiastic 3.5. It's still part of like a run that's not good. It took so long to get to like this kind of spot where it became an enjoyable title, and it's too little too late. And I'm still not loving it, but it was a whole lot better than I've read lately from Bloodshot.
So I'm trying to look at this issue as understanding that the first 5 issues were kind of what they were, and we're in the second issue of a 3 issue arc. And I think
Yeah,
that I think that with those factors considered, this was a really, really good issue. And taking the issue on its own as much as I can with the really good art that was on it, the super fun action and what I think is perfect Bloodshot writing. Like I think Bloodshot, this is the way that like you said, this is what you would want from a making the monster style Bloodshot book. There are still problems. I don't know that those problems are Elliot's fault, but they're still there.
Well, and
Um,
that's what I hope I kind of get out there. Is like I'm not saying that like anything that I mean the thing is there's just things that were just caused by this book being this book. You know that Elliot can't fix everything. So
I can still get to a 4 on this though. Um,
well, I
I
expect the world's biggest Bloodshot fan to think a little higher than I do. That's okay.
Yeah, fair enough. I do think it's a really fun issue though. I don't know that I'll ever point to Bloodshot Rising Spirit as like, oh, Bloodshot's a cool character. You should read this book. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
probably not going to be the first one I go to, but this was a really fun issue. Um, so the last issue that we have to talk about is Punk Mambo #2.
Yep.
Um, I don't remember the score that I gave the first one, but I remember feeling a little bit on the fence. This issue, I am fucking sold.
I agree. I mean, I was sold on the first one. I really like the first one a lot. I thought this book just started out so great. Like from where we were left off, you know, you get all these Loas, and the Loas are kind of like they're kind of like staring down on Punk Mambo, and she's just got such awesome like attitude. I
Yeah.
love it. I'm so into this title. It stinks. It's. I mean, I'll say it right now. Like, even though it's a 5 issue, I'm really bummed it's only a 5 issue arc because like I just feel like do something to keep Cullen Bunn and Adam Gorham like doing the character. Adam seems like he loves working on Punk Mambo. He's always showing off art.
Dude, I'll tell you right now, man, if you could give me one 5 or 6 issue Punk Mambo arc per year and have it be Cullen Bunn and Adam Gorham every time, I would be so fucking on board for that. I mean, I'd love a Punk Mambo ongoing, but especially if it was like this. But I mean, if you could just give me this creative team once a year, I would be absolutely happy. I would be completely content. Um, yeah, I think that this is a really fun book. And the great thing is, like, you know, sometimes you'll get books where there's really good writing and the writing really understands the character, and then the art is just kind of serviceable. Or you'll get really, really awesome, expressive, deep art, but the writing will just kind of be surface level and there's not really that much going on. I think that this book is a perfect example of both the the writer and the art team operating at the top of their game. I mean, Cullen Bunn has nailed Punk Mambo as a character, and I think Adam Gorham has as well. There's so many panels that are just Punk Mambo's face in this book, and
I'm
every
glad you
single
brought
one of
that
them is
up.
awesome.
I'm glad you brought that up because I do feel like Adam is very. Maybe it's a thing with the script where like Cullen is asking Adam to do these things with her face, but she's very expressive. Like in the panels, like from a visual standpoint, I think you can like look and convey what she's expressing. You know, so I'm glad you brought that up. It's one of the things I really liked about Adam's art on this book too. It's I mean, like it's a very cool story. I think the cast is done well a little bit too. There's not too many like extra characters in this. And again, like I just think like her attitude, it just works really well. Where she's not too like snotty. She's like the right amount of like snotty and cocky, you know,
Yeah,
given that
dude.
she's like an old she's an old gal from Britain and she's a punk and like, she's like a cool style punk. And I don't know, man. There's just so much about this book that I could just gush over, really.
Do
Like I
you
just
do you
like this
watch
so
Game of Thrones by any chance, or have you watched it?
not since the wall. They fought the wall. They fought the wildlings.
Okay.
It's been a
Well,
while.
um, I don't remember the character's name, but anybody that watches Game of Thrones, if you know the Tyrell matriarch, Marjorie Tyrell's, I believe it was her grandma,
Yeah.
um, that lady is who
Oleg.
Kimbo reminds me of.
I know the actress you're talking about because I loved Old Lady Tyrell. She was awesome. She was so
Oh,
spunky.
yes. But does she not remind you of Punk Mambo? Does Punk Mambo not remind you of her? Because
It's
it's
hard to
that
say because I
same.
haven't watched it for so long, but I just remember that she was just such a snarky old bitch, like and I mean that in like the best way possible.
Yeah, because
Where
she's just got that total snark, but not in a way that's grating, in a way that's like, oh, you sly old bitch, I can't believe you said that, but you're totally gonna get away with it. And that's
yeah,
exactly how Punk Mambo is. It's like, nobody else could say that and get away with it, but everybody in the room knows that you're gonna get away with it. You know what I mean? Like, I
yeah,
think that she just tells it like it is in a really like,
you
I
know,
don't know,
when,
enjoyable way.
when she's talking down to the Loas, I just thought that was just such a great scene within the book, and I think it just sets the course really well for the rest of the issue. We're like,
She's so
yes,
self-possessed.
yeah, that's a great way of putting it. So, it's a hard book to score. I'd probably go about a 4.75. I mean, I liked it that much. It's really good. It's just a hair not as good as like say like Toyo Harada's miniseries. That's about like the only thing better than this. But it's so well done. Uh, Valiant fans, I hope they enjoy it. It seems like it seems like people outside of our fan base are starting to like pick up on this character at least. I've seen like a lot of posts about it, so I think that's great. And maybe this can be a character that can be like someone's first Valiant character. You
Yeah.
know, that's cool.
Well, and the cool thing about that is that Punk Mambo has shown up in a bunch of other books too. So anybody getting into Punk Mambo, if she becomes, somebody's new favorite character and they want to read all the stuff that she's been in, that gives them an opportunity to read Shadow Man stuff, read Ninjak stuff, read, Bloodshot stuff. So I think that that's really cool that she's a character who's interacted with a bunch of other big name characters in the Valiant universe and is now doing really well in her own book. I think that um, Cullen Bunn has nailed her character, and I think like as in what this is what I said before. Cullen Bunn has nailed her as a character, and I think Adam Gorham has as well. I'm actually right there with you as a 4.75. I gave Toyo a 4.5, and I think this is just that slight bit better. Which isn't a knock on Life and Death of Toyo Harada because that's a
Not at
phenomenal
all.
book. But this, I feel like this to me is near comic perfection. It's fun. It's got action. It's got really interesting characters. Even the characters that are only on page for a short amount of time feel real. They feel fleshed out. The dialogue feels really calm and natural, and it flows really well. I just feel like this reminds me a lot of some of my favorite parts in like some of the Marvel superhero movies where the conversations are just um, more like conversations real people would have and less like um, you know something that's written to be dramatic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that, and I think like one thing that kind of lends itself to like Cullen's writing is that like he's a little bit more of an established veteran than what we normally get a lot of times with like Valiant. Like I think
Yeah.
like Jeff Lemire like and Matt Kent, they've written a bunch of stuff, all creator owned, and they have good dialogue too. I don't know if you could really tell that much for like say like Kent's EXO run, but like his Ninjak was great. He's done a lot of great work. Same with Lemire. And I think Cullen he's got like that experience to it. So he knows like, how to make people sound like people. And I think that's one thing that sometimes does get missed with like the writers because like sometimes like the writers that Valiant has hired in the past is like there's just not a lot of like experience under their belt. However, I mean I think like Venditti early on is like an example of that. Where like I don't love early EXO under Venditti. I think though that if you read EXO from beginning to end, though, you see a guy become like I guess a guy who's just a writer become like a really good writer in comics, because he just totally gets to own the character, and you just see his skill just kind of get a little bit better and a little bit better. I mean, I honestly think once you get to like Armored Hunters in Exo's run, like issue 25, that book's pretty incredible. Like as far as like Valiant goes, I mean, it's really good stuff. It would make like it'd be the top of my list probably. like on all time Valiant, like newer Valiant stuff, just because
Yeah.
I do think like his writing is so good, and that's only half of the run. It's still a good run, like that first 2 years. It just gets really good, I think, after 2 years. So, but here, Colin is like he's a great writer. I mean, like I would just say like he's a great writer in comics. He's got a great feel for horror. So like I don't know how much like research he would have to do for like voodoo stuff. I haven't read all of his work. I just know that he does a lot of horror stuff. But I'm just really impressed with the issue. So that's what.
No, I think that it was really, really well done. I'm definitely stoked to see the rest of this series. This is only issue two of what's going to be a 5 issue series. So
Mhm.
I'm very glad that we're less than halfway through because that means, we get three more issues of Adam Gorham drawing Punk Mamba, which I know is going to be amazing. We get three more issues of Cullen Bunn writing her.
One more point I do want to make about this that is really great is that it's an entire issue of Adam Gorham's art too. So we're not getting like say like 14 pages of him and then like 6 pages of like a fill-in. Like it's nice to see like an artist begin and end an issue. We don't get it a whole lot, or at least not enough.
Yeah, I mean, like, I get why they're doing it in the Toyo book because you're getting Kafu doing the main story and then you're getting other artists doing like the
Well, I
flashbacks.
think you're getting artists that their attention to detail takes longer.
Yeah, like Miko.
Yeah. So I mean, those guys have been working on the book for a long time. So like I mean, we're sitting here like, oh yeah, issue 3. Like, it's not even unreasonable to think that someone might still be drawing some stuff for issue 6, just because like like those guys, the style that they put out there requires a bit more time.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely agree. I think that Adam is a great artist for this book, and it's great to see him doing the entire issue and the whole run. And like I said before, I would love to see this creative team continue. But also looking to the future, next week we have Fallen World #2 coming out. That first issue, I also feel like I was a bit on the fence with. There were some really good things, but there were some things I didn't like so much. So I'm really curious to see how this second issue plays out.
I think that like the writing was very good on that. Like the writing was really, really good. It's just the art for me. The art's just not my style, but
It was not phenomenal. But
it's just not great.
at least we're getting at least one book next week instead of a zero book week. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll be back potentially on a different day. We've been discussing possibly switching things up a little bit. We'll see. Um,
Schedules change sometimes, and Eric he has a very early Friday, so like I don't want to keep him up all night doing this.
yeah, I got to get up super early tomorrow and leave the house before 6 a.m. so that I can get to the gym.
Ugh. Yeah, that is pretty early.
Yeah. Um, yep. So gotta get my gym time tomorrow. Uh, Friday mornings are a great workout. So yeah, but yeah, so we may be doing some changes. We'll see. Either way, we got Fallen World 2 next week. Thanks everybody for indulging me. Thank you, Josh, for indulging me. Let me talk about the cool artwork and comics I got at the con. And
Oh, I think that's okay. I love it when we get to talk about that stuff, because we don't. I don't think either of us really exist in a place where we get to do that a lot.
yeah,
Utah is not like a cultural hotbed of comic book conventions. I have to travel usually, for like the 1 or 2 episodes that we do where I get to talk about that a lot. So I'm glad you got
yeah.
to do one. Is there one coming up like later this year too?
There's a bigger one coming up here in Minnesota later that's got like a whole bunch of people listed as going to be there. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
try to see.
I think I saw something about that where I was like, oh, that's like a pretty impressive guest list. So
Yeah. Yeah, like GalaxyCon or something like that. So
like that,
I'm gonna
yeah.
try to see if I can get to that. Just depends on scheduling and costs and all that stuff. But
You should see if you can get a press pass for doing a podcast, dude. Come on.
oh yeah, I suppose I should talk to somebody about that. Um,
That's how I go to conventions for
fair
free.
enough. Fair enough. Um, so this has been episode 120 of Get Valiant.
The big 120.
Getting in those big numbers. But I want to thank everybody for watching, for listening. Signing off, I'm Eric Bongard.
I'm Josh Rathman.
And you guys buy every copy of Bloodshot Rising Spirit. We need more of that book. No, give Ali Rahal a book of his own. That's the real message.
Yeah, give more Elliot. Hashtag